Hey guys, how are you? Chris here with Little Chris Music. I've been thinking about it for a long time, and I've always wanted to do some sort of like podcast or YouTube cast, and I always was wondering what should it be about. And it finally came to me, and this is what you have. This podcast or YouTube cast is called Verse, Chorus, Verse, and the reason it's called that is because it's two things coming together, hopefully making a good song, or two people coming together, hopefully making a good conversation about whatever the topic may be. Um, this thing will always be a very fluid podcast because it's going to be always evolving. But for the most part, at least for now, it's going to be a lot of talking about songwriting. And I got a bunch of things coming up that I think you're going to love. I'm talking to the guitar player from Cadillac Tramps here soon. I just talked to my friend Mary, who's one of the smartest music people that I know. We talked a lot about theory, which is what this episode is about. And another element of what I want to share or talk about is mental health. Not necessarily trying to fix what's already damaged per se, but more of preventative. Long story short, music for me growing up was a way to have a voice and to have my own unique voice. There's that saying. The saying is really, whenever we talk, we're always sharing stuff that we've already heard from somebody else. But when it comes to music, it's my own voice with how I want to play. So anyways, that just really kind of struck a nerve with me, and I loved it. And so I want to share that with you guys, everybody who's listening, and to talk about music theory, to talk about songwriting, to talk about the mental aspect of the benefits of music, which is a lot of why I'm here. I'm here to play music, teach music, but more importantly, try to add something positive to the community and the world. I don't necessarily want you to work with me only. I would really prefer that you just get into music, whatever it is, however it is. If you do decide to work with me, that's great too. But I just think that everybody deserves the chance to play some sort of music, even if it's just humming, even if it's just beating up a desk, and just, tap, 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 whatever it might be. This world, that of which seems to be filled with negativity and hate, needs a little bit more music. And I'm hoping by watching these podcasts or YouTube casts, whatever I want to call them, that you get that you get that inspiration, and that maybe this thing that you think is super complicated, this thing meaning music, if you think it's super complicated, maybe afterwards you'll think, okay, I can give this a shot. Anyways, I'd love to hear your comments, and I hope to keep this coming. If you have any suggestions, or if you know of people who I should be talking to, let me know. All right, all right. So this is my episode 1, and this is about music theory, and I am talking to my buddy Mary Wilson of the Language of Piano. She is an amazing piano teacher, and she has a lot of experience when it comes to music theory and teaching, and actually her whole entire family, it sounds like, has just been heavily involved in music. And I learned a lot from her, and I think you will too. Definitely enjoy. All right. Have a great day, guys. See you later. You talked about writing music. Tell me about your experience in writing music. Tell me about your process. What's that look like? I'll give you an idea of what I'm talking about. For me, I'm strictly a stringed instrument kind of guy, guitar, bass, ukulele, whatever it might be. And for the most part, I'll think of something in my head, and whatever it is in my head, no matter how weird it is, I'll try to put it on the guitar. And I know with scales and whatnot, there's only so much you can do. But if I hear it in my head, and if it sounds good, and if I remember it a week later, then obviously it's important enough to try to put on guitar. And then from that verse, which I may even think is a good chorus eventually, but from that one section, I'll try to create another section that sounds like it's married to that one, and then so on and so forth. So
Right.
that's kind of what I do. What do you do?
I do that too, you know, in the mechanical end of it for sure. Like you kind of get the nugget that you start with, and then I'll say that I get the nugget that I start with, and then from there I kind of branch off. I find that things go naturally to another place, you know, and you know, it would be really easy to do the like the you know, like a da ba ba, you know, where it's a really, really traditional, you know, Western music progression, which are great. Like the Beatles are so straight ahead with their progressions, you know,
Yeah.
which makes their songs really powerful. But a lot of times I'll hear the chorus, and then from there I'll kind of go, you know, actually, a lot of times I start with a verse. It kind of starts with telling a story, kind of for me, you know, where uh, I had this one song called Just a Phase, and I'm sorry. Do you want me to move him?
No. This is good. This is genuine.
So
You must be working from home.
yeah,
Me too.
home studio.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll start with a verse, and I'll kind of start telling a story. And honestly, where it really usually starts from is a feel, you know, like this one is and I started there and I liked it. And honestly, that was when I was working with scales and I was working with fourth shapes, honestly. And then from there, I'll kind of go, okay. And then I'll start singing over it. I'll start, there's a death of some kind, you know, and I'll start singing over it. And then the words will kind of flow in with that rhythm, you know? And so I don't necessarily sit down and say, I'm going to write a song about X, unless that's another direction I can come from as well. You know, there are different places that I'll come from, but essentially I'll start with a feel, and then I'll kind of find a hook in that melody, like a motif, you know, ba 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 bum bum bum, you know, something like that. And then
So music first?
yeah, and I'll
Okay.
kind of ride that until I've hit like 4 to 8 bars, you know, because that's a traditional song structure. You know, it'll be
Sure.
like 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and you'll do like maybe, what is it, 2 or 4 sets of that for your verse, you know.
Right.
And so I'll kind of feel that, and I'll know it's time to wrap up on the phrasing, and then I'll go to the next thing. So yes, I guess I do music first. And it's not as often that I start writing and then I say, okay, I'm going to go put music to that now. It's usually something lyrically that fell into place, you know, in a rhythmic way or in a musical hooky kind of way. And then I'll build it from there.
Gotcha. What's the fourth? You said something like fourth shapes?
Yeah.
What the
So
hell is
that's,
that?
okay. So this is where music theory is so big, because this is how it worked for me in this one. An interval is a space between 2 notes, right?
Okay.
So you've got your, like, you got your C, and then you've got an interval between C and D would be 2, because it's 2 notes. Oh, that's so cool. Okay. And then that would be 3 notes, because it's 1 2 3, and then 1 2 3 4, right? So it's nothing really complicated. It's just kind of like 1 2 3 4 5 until you get all the way to the octave, right?
Okay.
And so in between the any 2 notes is going to be a space of a certain amount of notes. And so a fourth is a really just clean, powerful interval. In fact, in theory, it's a perfect interval. You usually have, you know how
That's what I know. Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I know.
yeah,
So
guitar's huge for that.
before we go any further with that one, so back to this. So if this is my root, and
Right.
if I'm going 2 intervals or 2 shapes,
2
I go
notes.
okay. So you're saying 2 notes and you're
Creating
saying
the shape.
shapes. So if I go 2 notes, I would be going to E.
Well, no, you're creating a shape or an interval, which is the musical term. of two notes, it's going to be a second. So it's going to involve the C and the D.
Why is this a second? Because that's a number two
C
note?
is number one.
I was testing you. You did really good. Really, really good. All right, we can continue this conversation. No, okay. So this is always one.
Right.
So D is always two. E is always 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yes, if you base it off C. You could base the same philosophy off of F sharp if you
But now
wanted.
hold on. But why wouldn't the black keys? Why wouldn't any of the black keys be considered part of that interval?
They would. They would. We just didn't get all into that yet. So let me step back a second, okay?
Sure.
In Western music, I always say that because in Indian music, they split tones up even more.
Okay.
Can I do a little rabbit hole here?
Sure.
Okay. A note, a scientific word for a note to me is tone, okay? A tone is a number of vibrations per second, okay?
Yes.
So
Yes.
like in orchestra, when you hear them tune, you know, the flutes all start riffing off of the original tone, but it's the piano going.
Okay.
And all the instruments tune to it, so no one's sharp, no one's flat. They're all kind of on the same board. And then the orchestra, the conductor taps the thing, everybody shuts up, and then he goes, you know, and he starts his thing, right?
Yeah.
So that tone is 440 degrees. That's a universal tone that orchestras use. Now here's the crazy thing. If you go from A, which is 440, and we're using that because like C is not an even number, right? So if you go from 1A at 440 up to the next A, you've doubled the amount of vibrations.
Okay.
It's now 880 vibrations up here, okay?
Okay.
It takes 880 vibrations per second to create that tone.
So if I go lower, a lower A, would it be 220?
Right.
And then a lower A would be 20?
It'll be 110.
110.
Right.
Right. Math.
Yeah, no, it keeps me honest, trust me. So anyway, so all that being said, going back to tones, you've got one tone, you've got C, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got a tone right next to it that's D. And so that's going to be 1 and 2. That's your second, right? And then you go 1, 2, 3. Now you've got your third. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you've got your fourth, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Hold on one second. I'm going into this, Chris, and I'm forgetting why we started this.
We're talking about fourths and shapes and intervals.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha. So you're creating shapes when you combine two tones. All right. Now there's a way. So again, what we said was an interval is the space between two notes. The interval is the space between two tones, right?
Okay.
So
So C and D are two tones.
they're two tones.
Okay.
They're two tones. They're 1 and then 2, and that's
Okay.
called a second. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you go to C to E, you're going to have 3. C to F, it's 4, and so on. And they're each going to have a different quality of sound, right? Which this is huge in music writing of any kind. If you take film scores, game scores, you know, songwriting, whatever. Let's say you have a song and you're like, that's kind of too happy. I want it to be a little more morose. Okay, let's bring in some negative energy. Let's flap the third. You know, let's make it a little more dissonant. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. So
okay. So to kind of expand on that, if I'm going C to E, but it's too happy, I would just go back one
to E flat.
To E flat. Oh, okay,
flat
got
E.
it.
When you flat a note, you go down a half step. When you sharp a note, you go up a half step. Right. So technically, that F on the keyboard right there is E sharp as well. It just depends on what piece of music you're reading, right? Yep. So it's a universal rule. Up a half step is sharp, down a half step is a flat. So okay, so all that being, if they don't know how to manipulate their instrument, they can't make anything anyway. So why not learn what someone else made first? And then once you get like 2 or 3 songs under your belt, you're like, oh, I see. So what I learned in Let It Be, I can also use in this Led Zeppelin tune, you know,
sure.
Because it's a chord progression or a fret position or whatever. I'm not sure exactly how you call that.
when you write songs, there's no bad answer or good answer. There's just your truth, right? When you write songs, are you writing them from a scientific point of view? And what I mean by that is, you know, if the key of if you're going to be in the key of C, then you stay within the key of C. You don't go outside of that scale. So I say that is kind of scientifically or very purposeful, right? So my question to you is, do you think you write scientifically overall, or do you think you write by feel? And maybe part two to that is, if you're with a band, do you write scientifically because you're collaborating, or do you write by feel?
So I write by feel, for sure. Write by
Period.
feel. Yeah.
Okay.
Because you can be in the key of C, but then you're going to go into the bridge and you need to go somewhere else.
Sure.
Right? Sometimes I wish I could think of something right off the top of my head, an example of a song, but you know, the song will start and it's all like, woo, you know, she left me, right? And then you get to the bridge and all of a sudden it's like, but I don't know what I'm gonna do. And all of a sudden it's not major anymore. It's like the moment of truth of like, oh, I'm in such anguish. And so now it goes minor, but kind of with this open, here's where the shapes come in, open fifths and fourths and like, you know, kind of just more like anthemic sound. And then it goes back to like maybe this, a sad re-entry into the verse, right?
Okay.
And then into the chorus is like your big payoff, whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
So, but I hear it in here. And I like collaborating, but I have to be willing to get derailed from my vision.
Sure.
And
how do you deal with that?
Huh?
How do you deal with that?
It's hard for me. It's very hard for me. I get frustrated. I have to be like, okay, this is not the song I thought it was going to be, you know, and then I have to take an idea. Oh my God, when I wrote with Jack's dad, I would be, you know, there, we had this song called the Coffee Song, and it was this real bluesy progression and just take your coffee and lay a little longer, you know, and it was about like how she was just going to get, you know, or he was going to get laid on like what he did wrong or whatever the case was. Okay. And then he wanted to take it to this point of like forgiveness and positivity, you know, and I'm like, no. This is too juicy where it's at. Like, let's just live here. And, you know, I had to be willing to say, okay, well, let's see where we can go with this. But then that nugget was gone for me, you know? Sure. And what I have to know is that, I mean, I just trust everything spiritual, like a million other things are going to land instead of it anyway. And maybe one day I can pick that up and redo something else with it, you know? It's formulated its own little thing. But
can we hear what it was supposed to sound like?
Oh, try, yeah.
This is what you wanted, right?
Yeah, I just don't know if I can remember where it went.
No problem.
Just take your coffee and wait a little longer. I know the silence is making you stronger. And when you're good and ready, you can lay it on the table. My heart was willing, but it's never been able. I'm not the best session player.
That's okay. It's okay. But what did it turn out to be?
Well, then from there, we went, right? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Really like Pollyanna, and I wanted it to be like
sounds like Fleetwood Mac to me.
It was a little more bittersweet, you know?
Sure.
Sure.
I'm sorry. I wish I could like pull it back. I'd have to like sit down and look at it. It was years ago.
Well, you
But
know me. You know me. I'm all about the darker the better. So
yeah, just making it more bittersweet, you know.
yeah.
And this other one, I don't know the pedal, but there's a death of some kind going on. Most of the time I don't feel much, except the times when it hits so strong. And then it carries on. And then
Yeah.
I got it to this. And the times I realize all the foolish things we try. Baby, I just want you to feel safe and satisfied. Just wish it wasn't me. You know, I'm a little more bittersweet, right?
Sure. Sure.
Versus, you know,
Wow.
not.
Hey, sidebar. We'll get back to this. I don't know piano. That's why I know you. I've always thought my left hand was supposed to be rhythm and my right hand was more of the melody, if you will. And you just basically played right hand rhythm and it felt like your left hand was more of the melody. I got a question for you. It's a hell of a thing to try to figure out how to have both hands speak to each other. How do you do that?
Okay, so it's really cool with the students because I've finally learned how to pass that on. I learned this Doobie Brothers thing. That was a hell of a thing for me to learn, but it's because it was, I can't do it slow. It's juxtaposition with the rhythms. And so, yeah, I'm still playing the bass basically in the left hand,
Sure.
but you can move it more melodically, like note after note versus just like, you know, the bass notes.
Yeah.
But what I do with the students is I'll say like, okay, go with this with your left hand. You're going to, here's your 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's how your fingers are numbered, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you take the 5 and you go on the C. And then I'm like, okay, now put your 2 on the G. So 5th up.
Yeah.
And then you count 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And my motive is to get them to play a little different offset to the left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 1. Get that and in there. And it's a very simple way to get your right hand to do something different rhythmically from the left. And they're super simple, but watching people take them in, I relate because I feel their pain. Like you have to kind of say, okay, while this one's sitting here, like break it down and then you can go, you know, whatever you're going to do with that. So you just have to kind of train yourself to start feeling your left and your right hand trading off. And then that's really kind of like the simple way I put it. And then after that, then you can start, you know, then you can expand and get the whole little vibe. Once you can get the little groove going, then you can just kind of forget about it. Your muscle memory knows it because your muscle memory takes over.
Okay.
So
I always tell my students, you have to go slow to go fast.
Yes.
And it kind of, right? It kind of, so that kind of coincides with what you're saying.
Yes.
You know,
gotta break it down.
Real simple. There's a thing that I'm trying to learn right now called Travis picking. I'm really good at finger picking with my first 4 fingers, but that 5th finger, it's a bear.
Wow.
Yeah, well, but look, but you're using all 10. But you're using all 10, so thank you, but come on. All right, that's interesting. That's really interesting. Okay, so let's get into I hate to say the real reason why you're here, but this is a major part of why you're here. I'm going to stop you a lot because some of the stuff that I anticipate you're going to share might be a little confusing to me. and I'm trying to be mindful of everybody else that might be listening to this as well.
Totally.
So what can you tell me about music theory?
Okay. I started when we were talking about the vibrations, right?
Yeah.
And that really, I find, is such a helpful way to wrap your head around music theory, because the way music theory is laid out is math, but people think the math in music, generally they suspect that it comes from the rhythm, which of course, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3, whatever it is. But there's a whole other math to it, and that's where the intervals come in. And, I do refer to them as shapes because intervals is really the technical term. But shapes they have a character. They make something, that's where you bring in the theater and the vibe and all that kind of thing. Because, on guitar, you have voicings, right? So you could do like just straight chords, or you can start stretching them out. And when I had to interpret what I was playing on the piano, that I wanted a guitar player to play for like a studio session, they were like, what are you even talking about? And I'm like, just do this. And they had to figure out this way to make it, make it sound different, open up the chord or whatever. So all of that has to do with intervals. And so when I was talking about the A scale, right, you've got, generally in music, you've got a scale from A, from the root, which will say A, up to the next A, which is an octave, ocho, 8, right? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, right? Now, collecting myself so I stay on track here. Okay. Between that, you feel like you hear 8 tones, right?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. However, there are 12. We've skipped over any notes that weren't necessary to represent a major scale. Okay. So really, instead of just, we've got.
Oh yeah, sure.
Right. So that's, and in all of that.
So to interrupt. So for guitar players, if we're going to go from C to D to E to F, so it's going to be a full step to go from C to D and a full step to go from D to E. But if we wanted to add all the notes, it would be C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, right, and so on and so forth, right?
Right.
Gotcha. Okay.
So between each octave, there are actually 12 tones.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And that's where the sharps and the flats come in and all of that stuff.
Yep.
All right. And so just to really demystify, a scale is built in a very specific way. It's a series of intervals. Okay. An interval is a space between 2 notes. So a scale is built of seconds. We'll go to C. C to D, D to E, E to F, F to G, G to A to B, B to C, okay? Right. And when we do that and we go into a song or a piece, it's going to be based on the fact that C to C is those tones. There are no sharps, there are no flats in a C major scale, right? So if you go and you play with a bunch of other people and you're like, oh, but I like F sharp, it's going to sound really wonky when no one else is playing F sharp. You're going to get this.
Sure.
That's not going to be good. So that is why scales are so relevant, because when you're writing in a key, that's your home base. You can change keys to go into a different section of the piece, but generally you're in the key of C. You're always not going to have sharps and flats, right? And if someone says, all right, let's go to G, all of a sudden, in order to have that proper sequence of intervals, we're going to have to sharp the F. So now we have 1 sharp. By your ear, did you play that sharp or did I not play that sharp?
Do it again, please. I think you played it.
This is with it.
You're asking me if I heard an F sharp?
Yeah. Tell me if I, okay, this is the G scale if I don't play the F sharp.
Okay.
This is the G scale if I play the F sharp.
Oh, okay. I had the difference at the
Right?
end. That's
Sounds
at the
different.
end, right?
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
I
Gotcha.
sharp the seventh. So if we were to play something in G and we forgot to sharp that F, you'd get a lot of sour notes throughout the whole
Sure.
piece.
Okay.
So that's where music theory is important, because it really dictates what we're used to hearing. And when we listen to music, if we listen to some song on the radio and all of a sudden they were like, yeah, let's screw it up, man. Let's mess with their minds. Let's play in, G minor instead of G major.
Sure.
We'd hear, right, for some tune that we're used to hearing. Right.
Okay. Sure.
So there's a very specific set of rules that come with music theory, basically.
Yeah.
And so when you start learning kind of the basics of music theory, you may not learn them right off the bat when you start guitar lessons or piano lessons. You may just say, here you go. This is what the music looks like. Put your hands like this. You're going to play a G chord, then you're going to play a D chord, and then you're going to play a C chord, right?
That's how I do it.
And they're going to go, okay, cool. And they're just going to know that that's what they do to make the song happen. And then they kind of sing over it. But how are they singing? Because their ear heard it. So my point is, we are already completely entrenched with music from the day we're like born or even before that, because we hear music all the time. And the music that we listen to is based on those very specific set of rules.
Yeah.
So if something sounds like Indian music, like they have, and all that kind of thing.
That was really good.
I just channeled an Indian too. So, that would sound different to us. Today we are so much more global, we hear more, but it would definitely be a different set of stuff we'd listen to. Or if you listen to like banda, banda or mariachi or whatever, like stylistically, that's so different compared to what we're used to in listening to modern music with loops and, someone talking over it. And a lot of times banda is very, specifically, they're just really like basic chord structures. They don't kind of go out of the loop where, in something that, so crazy right now, and then she's got this whole other thing that she's implying, even though you're only hearing like one note being sung and then a whole bunch of stuff underneath. Whole different feel than hearing bum 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 bum, and whatever that tune would turn out like. I'm not a good
so if I'm playing in the key of C,
yes,
if I understand correctly, which I don't think I do, if I'm playing in the key of C, the circle of fifths are usually happening on the vocals or something else?
Happening all the way through. So and yeah, let me know at any time how I need to kind of restructure this so that I can say it better.
I'm really pretty. I really am. But that's it.
Me too. I just do it. No. This is really helpful because I have all these things written down. You're editing this, so this is good. But I kind of, the way that I said it was sort of like, I wasn't sure whether to go into the whole thing, if we should go into the circle of fifths or not, or whatever. But I'll do this. Okay. So to understand like the scale is really important. That's kind of the very basis of music theory. Okay. A scale is a sequence of notes very specifically laid out. And it isn't just like one note after the other. You can have a whole step, which is a second, or you can have a half step, which is a minor second. Right? And those whole steps and half steps are laid in a very specific way so that we have a scale. When a piece of music is played, we say it's in the key of C major, right? What that means is that that song is based off of every single step that is supposed to be in that C scale. It is not supposed to have any flats where they're not supposed to be, or any sharps where they're not supposed to be. It's supposed to be specifically what is in that scale.
Okay.
Okay. So that's where kind of the very basis of music theory comes in. The circle of fifths is centuries old, right? And that is a thing that dictates, I even have an image of it. I forgot to pull that out for you. I'm going to grab that.
Yeah. Is this the circle of fifths you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay. So can you explain that to me? Because here's the deal, right? A lot of this stuff, I've been kind of going along, pretending I'm a beginning guitar player or a musician, asking you questions I think people would want to learn. But I don't understand this personally. I don't understand this. I don't know why it's important. And honestly, I don't know how to read this. I've got red letters, I've got black numbers, and I've got lowercase green letters. I get it. Yeah, no, yeah, right. And I get it. If I'm in the key of G, or the scale of G, is there's only one sharp. And D, there's two. And A, there's three. And E, there's four. And so on and so forth. Is that right? Or am I way off?
That's right. That's absolutely right.
Okay, awesome. So then if you can,
work this out.
Honestly, yeah. And if you can have me make sense of this, then rock and roll. Okay, go for it. Ready, start.
Okay. I absolutely love this. And so that you know, when I was like 19, I studied this with my dad, right?
Okay.
And I was, you know, I'd already had like a ton of ear training to kind of know when I hear an interval, what it's supposed to sound like, right? Yeah. Some people can say, oh, you hear a note and they're like, oh, that's G. And I'd be like, you know, how the hell do you do that? Well, I have perfect pitch, right? I don't got that. You don't need that. That's just like some weird savant thing, right? Okay. And so, but what I can do is hear intervals. I can hear if it's a fourth. I can hear if it's an augmented fourth where you sharp the top note or whatever. Let's take this back a couple steps before we get into this, okay?
Okay, sure.
A sharp, for those that don't know, is any given note and you raise it a half step, which is kind of like the smallest interval there is, right? Mm-hmm. A flat is when any given note and you lower it a half step.
So this is G, and this is G sharp?
Yes.
Or this is G flat?
Yes. Can you play the G natural to the G flat?
Yep. G natural to the G flat.
Yes, yes.
Cool, go ahead.
Okay. So why is that relevant? Because like what we were talking about, a piece of music, I'm going to step back one further step here, okay?
Okay.
I was talking about vibrations. Every tone is a certain amount of vibrations per second. They have this crazy thing called an overtone series, right? Yeah. And that was developed centuries ago as well. It wasn't developed, it was kind of like mathematics. Mathematics already existed, and then we figured out a system in order to be able to determine how to say, how to add things, how to subtract, how to multiply. The numbers were always there. We just found a way to make it show up on paper so we could work with it. Or an abacus, we're in whatever century you were born in, right? Sure. So you got that. It's the same thing with music. It's the exact same thing with music. So looking at this is kind of like looking at a times table or something, okay? Put that in a mixing bowl and put that to the side for a second, all right? Okay. When you have a certain number of vibrations, you create like C, let's say, I don't know how many vibrations per second it is. We can certainly Google that. It's gonna look like an oval, okay? And just picture an oval and it's gonna go like, right? I'm singing on that one set of vibrations. I found it on my vocal cords and I reproduced a C out in the sky, right? Out in the air. Now, let's say I wanted to go up to the, the one below it, okay? I'm going
an octave below?
The next C below it.
Okay, got it.
Okay? La, la, right? What I did was I took those vibrations that were happening up here. I took that oval and I twisted it like, you know, those people that do twisty balloon toys, like they make
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
You know what it looks like when you take the balloon and you twist it in the middle, it turns into 2 segments, right?
Sure.
That's what you've done with the vibration. It's now got a certain divide in it.
Okay.
Okay. So it still sounds pretty pure and good to the ear. It's an easy thing to listen to. Right?
Mm-hmm.
The next most pure sound of vibration is a fifth. Now I've taken that balloon and I've twisted it into 3 portions. Okay? So it's a little more interesting to the ear, a little less harmonious, if you will, to the ear, but it's still pretty cool sounding and pretty clear. That's the octave with the 1 twist in the middle. That's with the 3 twist in the middle. Okay?
Okay. Okay.
So that's why fifths are so powerful, because they're still pretty pure on the ear. They're still pretty pure to listen to.
Where there did you play the fifth?
I went from C to G.
Okay, so based on the grid, from here, this C to this
Right.
G, that's a fifth?
That's your
And then
G.
G to D is a fifth?
Right. And so forth. Okay?
Okay. Okay.
But hold on, you're not playing them all at once.
Right.
You're not playing them all at once. If you're looking at C, pretend it's a clock. If you look at that and that's 12 o'clock, are you also looking at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock? No, you're not. You are only looking at C. Okay? The reason I'm bringing up the fifth and the purity of it is that the smaller the interval gets, the more dissonant and crunchy on your ear. Okay? So if we were to go to a seventh, that's pretty dissonant. That's definitely not this.
Okay.
So that B, point to where that B is. It's all the way down at about 5 o'clock on that circle of fifths.
Right.
Right? So just know that. You don't have to know what the vibrations are doing or anything like that. Just know that the way music works, it becomes more and more intricate and kind of more for your ear to listen to. Sometimes we want that purity and that happy, joy, simplicity and the peacefulness. Like Gregorian chants, they were only allowed to move in certain ways so that they would not create more friction on the ear. Right?
Uh-huh.
And then when you think of like, okay, play that Black Dog progression. Can you do that?
Black Dog, yeah. Let me get my pick.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, so that's definitely got some flat tones in there, some blues tones. It's more edgy. It's more like,
yeah.
You know, and there's all these people out there, woo, yeah, I'm doing good, right? Yeah. Yes. The reason it rocks and it's edgy is that you've got all these flatted and crazy kind of tones that are not specifically in that scale in the obedient way they're supposed to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Now we can get back to the circle of fifths. Okay?
Okay.
C major scale is a nice orderly garden, and we're going to make it just C major scale. We're going to obey all the rules. We're not going to play any sharps or flats or anything like that. The note underneath there is a natural sign. That means don't screw with any of the notes. We got this. We're just C major. We don't got to do nothing. Let's just keep it the way it is. Okay. So we like major scales. They're nice and proper, and they belong in church, and you know, nice, like really, right? No shade thrown on anything. I'm just saying, right? Keep it clean, keep it nice. Okay, what's another key we can do that on? Well, let's go up a fifth to G. Okay, But in order to maintain all the rules of that nice white picket fence little garden of a major scale, in G, we're going to have to sharp the seventh note, because otherwise it's going to sound weird. It's going to be a little more flat than it should be. And so everybody's going to show up, and today we've brought an orchestra in, and they're all going to play nice, and they're going to be obedient, and they're going to stick to the G scale, and everybody is going to sharp that F, because if not, it's going to sound like this. Okay? So now we've done C and G. Let's try it out on another pitch. Let's go to D. Okay? I still want to do my major scale in D, don't you? Yeah, I want to make it sound all nicey nice. Okay. Well, what do? This time we have to sharp F sharp and C sharp in order to do that, or else it's going to sound like this.
And do I see that here on this chart?
Yes. So, see the D?
Here?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Go to the left of it where it says 2 sharps.
Yep.
2 sharps, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now go all the way out to the staff, and those are where the sharps are written on your music staff.
So this is piano staff. This is piano staff, right?
Yeah, guitar doesn't use that.
No, because that's 5, and it's 6 line. No, not really. I mean, they can if they can understand music and they know their notes. People much smarter than me. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, and you are brilliant, so I'm just going to deny that.
Thank
But
you.
it's kind of, it's interesting. I would like to know more about that. I know they write in different registers on the same staff of lines and all of that. But no matter what,
isn't C like right around here?
that's middle C. But
Yeah,
if
right.
you go up to, okay, so on the next one, go to A, all right, where you are. That's good. Or you could even have done it on D. See where the second sharp is, the second hashtag?
Right here?
That's C. That's on the C line. What that indicates is that every time you play C, you're actually going to play C sharp in order to obey the rules of being in A major.
Okay, got it. Oh, I got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so these sharp signs aren't willy-nilly placed on the lines.
Not at all.
These
not
are
at all.
specific lines. So if this is middle C, what it's saying, if it's in the key of E and there's 4 sharps, they're going to be on that note, that note, that note, and that note.
Right, but you have to go from left to right. You just made Bach turn over in his grave a little bit. So you have to go there. Then you have to go to the next one. Then you have to go to the next one. Nope.
So it's this note, then it's this note, then it's this note, then it's this note.
Right. Now go all the way back to G and watch something really cool. The first sharp is F sharp. Okay?
That's F sharp.
Now go to D. What's the first sharp on the key signature? It's
F
always the same. You will never have a key signature that has G sharp only. That's just not going to happen. You will always have F sharp and then C sharp and then G sharp and then D sharp and so forth.
So question. On the G here, right up here. So is this sharp laying on top of that line, which is the F sharp?
Yes.
So if this is F, does that make this G?
No, it's the other way. If you go up on the staff, you go forward in the alphabet.
A, B, C.
Right.
So if this is F sharp, this would be E.
That would be
this
E.
line would be E.
That's right.
Okay, so then let me play this out. So then that's F sharp right here for D, and then it's going to be E, G sharp.
It's C sharp. Because you're going to go. I wish I had your little pointer. So go to the line with the F sharp.
I can give you access.
Oh, okay.
Can I give you access?
Oh, can you see what I'm doing? Oh no.
No. Hold on. Okay, go for it.
Okay, this is F sharp. Okay. What I'd like you to do instead is really look at this as the F line.
Hold on. I can't get you to do it. Hold on. There's got to be a way I can make you.
No, it's okay. It's better if you do it anyway. It'll stick better.
Okay, go ahead. So tell me again.
Okay, go ahead to the D key signature. Okay, so by the way, let's clarify this before we even go forward. Pointing to the D itself, just the letter, that is the key you're in. Now go to the music, the staff. That is the key signature. The key signature of D is F sharp and C sharp. If I were to look at a piece of music and I sat down and looked at that, I would say, oh, we're either in the key of D, D major, or its relative minor, which has the same key signature, and that would be B. The relative minor is always a minor third below the original major key.
What does that mean, a minor third below?
It means that instead of, I want to go there, but I'm afraid to step, well, let's do it. Okay, so here's D.
So hold on, let me do this.
Okay, so you have, let's not.
Does that work for you though?
Well, it's okay, we'll go to a different note. Okay, so let's go to G. No,
G.
that works, okay. I just couldn't do it off D.
Okay, so we're gonna go to G.
Right, now you go down to F. That's a major second, okay? Go to E,
okay.
That's a minor third. To do a major third, you would go down to D sharp, which is that black note.
That makes sense to me. That makes total sense to me. Okay,
yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, this is cool. Okay. We're bridging between guitar and keyboard. It's pretty cool.
So then if we're on G, and it's a D sharp, you said, right? This is what we were talking about right here,
yeah.
right?
Okay, so circling that letter, you are circling the name of the key you're in. It's G. You're in the key of G.
Yep, let's do this differently. Here we go. I'm gonna get real complicated. There's that.
You are doing both.
Yeah. So let's. I really want this to make sense.
Yeah.
So okay, cool.
Oh, beautiful! I'm so excited right now. Okay. So, okay, let's go to the key of G. Okay, that's the name of the key. Now point to the staff with the hashtag on it, the sharp mark, okay? That sharp is in, and by the way, treble clef. We are in the treble clef. That insignia in the light gray just to the left of the sharp is the G, is the treble clef. The nickname is the G clef, okay? Because it's circled.
Would this be D clef?
No, it will always be treble clef. Forget that the only reason I say that it's nicknamed G clef is that the circle on that insignia circles the G line. It will always circle the G line.
Oh, got it. Oh, I got that. I get that.
It's a nice little shortcut, right?
Gotcha.
So, okay, so we're in the treble clef, which means that our F line is that top line. That's one of the Fs in the staff, okay? Now we've taken that F and we've sharped it throughout the entire piece, because this is only in the beginning of the music will you see the key signature, okay?
Okay.
And when you look at it, you're like, got it, I know my rules. Every time I'm gonna sharp my F, I must be in the key of G major.
Okay.
Unless I'm in E minor, which has the same key signature. So in order to play an E minor scale effectively, I'm gonna have to go to the green one, yes.
Okay.
In order to play my E minor scale effectively, I'm going to sharp my F every single time, or else it won't sound right. This is an E minor scale played correctly. This is the E minor if I did not sharp the F. Doesn't sound right.
No.
You gotta sharp that F.
Okay.
Okay.
I was gonna try to play along with you, but I'm not sure.
Do you want to do it? Okay, let's go.
Okay.
1, 2, ready, go.
Oh, I'm not even tuned right. Hold on.
Cool.
Okay, here we go. So what is it? It's F sharp. What's the next one?
That's F natural. You need F sharp. There you go. Good. So that's your G.
Tell me the notes first.
Oh, okay. Oh, so sorry. So sorry. Okay. Do you want to start over?
Yes.
Okay. E.
E?
Start with E. Now F sharp. Now G. Now A. Now B. Now C. D. And then E.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Okay. So where are we at? Okay, so we have our G, which is the name of the key. We have the key signature, which is the F, the sharp sign put onto the F line. Okay. We know that G only has that one sharp. That's why that's written there. And on the inside, we know that that's the relative minor. If you go down a minor third, you will find the minor key that relies on that same key signature.
So if I go down third, looking at the pianos, that's one, two, third.
Right. Perfect.
Okay.
It will
And
always.
if I'm at D, I'm gonna go two to, no, wait.
How many? Unfortunately, it doesn't have the B right there. That's why I was like, oh, we can't do it on the.
That's okay. We'll give it a shot. So here's D. D would be on this side. So I would go how far down to get to the B as in Bravo?
So you're going to go
Still
down
a third?
whole step to the C.
Okay.
And then now you're there, yeah. And then down a half step to the B.
Oh.
So a minor third is a half step and a whole step.
I get that. Okay. I get that. A minor. Yeah. Okay. I get that. Cool.
Right. In fact, whenever I fiddle with guitar, I have to play around with the frets. That's the only way I know my way around. I'm like, where's the half step? Where's the whole step?
Yeah.
So, okay. Now here's the crazy thing. If you go back up to so what I will say in the key signature is that a lot of times you'll see music and you'll see a sharp somewhere randomly in the piece. And that's just because for that measure, they set, for that one time, they wanted to sharp that note just because it sounded cooler, or they wanted to go, right? Instead of, or something, you know, they wanted to change that one note. So they put a sharp or a flat. But that only is for that one instance, and any other time that happens in that measure. Okay. A key signature, it puts it in the very beginning of the music and says, this is what's up. This is what you're going to do through the whole piece unless we tell you otherwise.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Okay. Yeah, it does.
Okay. So the last thing I'm going to say about the circle of fifths, well, going clockwise, you go sharps. Okay. So the circle of fifths, the last thing I'll say is the sharps also travel in fifths.
Okay.
So it's F, right? It's F sharp on the G.
Right here.
Now you go down to the D. The next sharp is a fifth above the first sharp.
Okay.
C sharp, okay? Go down to the A.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sharp. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Now you go down to the A. The next sharp on top of the C sharp is a fifth up as well. G sharp.
Okay.
That's right. And so on.
Okay.
The sharps travel in fifths as well. Hence the circle of fifths.
Oh, crap. Okay, I got you. So
Isn't that
C. Yeah. So C.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Nope. That would be a half step. An interval, any interval has to have a specific way of being, just like the octave does. It's like
The starting point.
a starting point, but then you also have to, in order for it to land correctly, you need to do the half steps and the whole steps in the right place in that scale. Okay.
Okay.
Same thing with the intervals. So with a fifth, and I don't have this memorized, so don't even think about, it's not necessary. But with a fifth, if you go from the C, like take your arrow down to the C. I mean,
Yep.
Got it. So the next one is D. That's a whole step because you did not go to the black note. Okay.
Right.
So the next one is E. That's a whole step. Same thing. The next one is F, a half step.
Yep.
And then a G, whole step.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they don't have to be in that order. As long as you have the same amount of whole steps and half steps between your C and your G, you're going to come to a perfect fifth.
Okay.
If you went to the F sharp, which technically looks like a fifth note in a way, right? You would diminish your fifth.
I want to show you something.
Oh, good.
We have something that we call, in essence, is kind of called 2131. And it's basically whole, half, whole, half. And so, and I guess what I'm getting at is this kind of feels like sounds like what I feel as though you're trying to get across. So if I started, yeah. So right. So if this is C, then that and the whole step is a D, then a half step is hold on. if we're starting out in C, then we're doing a whole step to a D, a
Right.
whole step to an E, a
Right.
half step to an F,
Right.
a whole step to a G, a
Yeah.
whole step to an A whole step to a B, and then a half step to a C.
That's
Right?
right.
Is that kind of the same thing?
It's exactly the same thing.
Okay,
I've
got
never
it.
heard of that before. That's awesome.
Yeah, 21, 31. And it's kind of cool because whatever your root is, it's always going to be that number.
Oh my God, that's so exciting.
And what's really cool about it too is that the last one I learned was an F sharp. And when you get towards the end of it, let's just do it. And you're going to have to help me with this. So if it's an F sharp, a whole step is a G sharp, right?
Uh-huh.
And then a whole step is an A sharp. And then a half step is a B?
Yeah.
A B. And then a whole step is a C sharp.
Right.
A C sharp. And then a whole step is a D sharp.
Mm-hmm.
And then a whole step is a...
Technically, it's an E sharp.
Technically, it's an E sharp, but technically it's an F. So in this particular instance, this is usually where I lose my students because I've been telling them this entire time there are no flats and sharps in between E and F and B and C.
Right.
But when I get here and say, oh, by the way, here's your sharp, I have to give them an explanation. But the payoff, yeah. And I told them the payoff is you want your last note to be the same as the first note. So, yeah. So that's
awesome. 2131.
2131.
Get the heck out.
Yeah. 2, 3, 1. Yeah. Cool. That's cool.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's how that works. You're seeing the number of sharp. You're seeing the key signature, the number of sharps, and then the relative minor is on the inside.
Okay.
And then you're welcome. If you go counterclockwise, you go down a fifth, and so here's my slogan. Okay. Love the slogan. In the circle of fifths, if you go clockwise, in other words, if you're going up the keyboard, right, you're going up the music,
up the neck, yeah.
You go up a fifth and you add a sharp.
Okay.
That's how it works. Up a fifth, add a sharp.
Okay.
And I make my students say that every time, and then I say, okay, say C, no sharps or flats. Up a fifth, add a sharp. Now I'm at G, and it's F sharp. Up a fifth, right? If you go counterclockwise, you go down a fifth and you add a flat.
Right.
And it gets more wonky, but it's exactly the same principles. You go down a fifth, you add a flat. You go down another fifth, you add another flat. The flats always come in order. B flat, then B flat, E flat, then B flat, E flat, A flat, and so forth. Okay. And then, and what was the other thing? The relative minors are still a minor third below.
Okay. Yep.
And the flats travel down in fifths as well.
Okay, let me ask you this. I get all these sharps and I get all these flats. What in God's name is this? Dude, it's like someone said, oh, let's just really confuse them.
Yeah, or you get some really pretentious musician, I wrote it in C flat. Really?
Yeah.
Do you think maybe you could write it in B instead?
Or go F yourself.
Only, I've lived in a part of the world where the music is so cerebral and we write all the time. Yeah, I got your C flat. So you go. I'm sorry, it just looked so funny with the arrow. It was like, okay, but check it out. Why do that when you could just switch it to B and deal with far less sharps?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
And they even did that. They were like, all right, just for scientists and posterity's sake, I'm going to write out C flat. But oh my God, don't you ever come to me writing a C flat piece. Same thing, may as well be B. And G flat and F sharp.
So these are basically the same.
Oh, they're the same. Yeah.
B and C and D and C.
Mm-hmm. You're on the same note. Because look, go down to your keyboard and please point to Yeah, let's go to the C sharp one. Please point to C sharp. Good.
Okay.
Okay, now please point to D flat.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the same, but
Yeah.
look how many less flats there are. And for
Yeah.
the love of God, you don't have to do something crazy like E sharp,
Yeah.
which I don't even know if you have to do that in C sharp, but
So KIS, keep it simple.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Keep
you.
it, or yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I learned something today.
So did I. 2131. And the
Yeah.
guitar, I didn't know you guys had the staff difference, and
Yeah. Oh yeah.
that's nuts.
So is there any, do you feel as though you covered it with the
Yeah.
the circle of fifths?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So you do need it. And even if you don't think you need it, you're using it anyways, more than likely.
Yeah. More so what I would say is once you get past, well, not more so. Yes, I totally agree. Once you get past learning some tunes and your fingers and your brain are all talking to each other and saying, oh, we got this. We know. I compare it to like learning to dance, or gymnastics, okay, here's where, or like a skier, we watch the Olympic skier and they're at the top of the hill and they're going through the curves and they're going down, oh, this way and that. Well, we're doing the same thing with our muscle memory, but with our hands.
Yeah.
Instead. And so once we kind of get the gift of that muscle memory, it serves us in more stuff, like once we learn how to walk, then we could add on running, and then we could add on jumping, and then we just add it onto our arsenal. It's the same thing, in my opinion.
Okay.
So, but with this stuff, once you are getting, it's not like one thing's happening at a time. You're learning mechanically what to do with your hands.
Right.
You're learning mentally how to read and connect it to what to tell your hands. And you are, and then you're also getting like the structures you'll see like, oh yeah, we do this a lot with this chord structure. Oh yeah, there's a whole other thing we could go into chords and how they lay out and they scale. Right. You start to get a familiarity, but can you put a name on it or dictate that when you want to be able to use it to say, wow, I had this great idea in my head. Wait, what happened right there? That was like the most exotic, cool thing. I don't know how to do it, or what to name it. So that's where that stuff comes in handy.
Okay. So you've dealt with a lot of students. Name one or two things that you think any musician should know, starting out, right? One or two things you think everybody should know.
Trust your ear. Trust your ear. I think I thought about this, and I feel, and the way I came to that was I was thinking about songwriting and, how did I go through songwriting or whatever, what's my process? And there are so many times where I was on point with what I heard. Like I said, we are so well versed in music, we don't even have a clue. It's happening before we even know it. We sometimes know that more than we knew that before speaking, like it's in there. So, but people say, I can't sing, I'm not musical, I can't this, that, or the other. And I'm not trying to say it in a, to really like, you got this. It's not about that. Like the reality is trust your ear. If it doesn't make sense to you on the page and the paper and it's kind of overwhelming, well, that makes sense. You didn't come to your first math class knowing algebraic equations, So it's the same thing, but you still understood that if you picked up one block and you had a second block in your hand, now I got 2 blocks. I got a lot,
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with the music. It's like, wow, that sounds really pretty to me. Or I was really into my workout today because that song pumps and I love it, like those are legitimate responses and those are intuitions that you have.
Yeah.
So if you hear something or you're in a lesson or you want to learn how to play and something doesn't sound right, listen to yourself, ask questions, and you're most likely right on point, you just don't know how to say it, do it, identify it. So that's the first thing I would say. Another thing with students, what would I say to students? Exactly what you said. Slower before faster. When you're learning something, oh my God, the intricacy of things that you can learn.
Yeah.
is way more than you can imagine if you literally spent 10 extra minutes,
Yeah.
like just breaking it down. But it's unnerving. I've been there. You can take a piece and want to learn like this, the blues. So I've got this. Okay, now I want to add something to it. It's so much cooler with that rhythm in there, but it's that whole juxtaposition.
Yeah.
If I just say, well, just do it on the and, you're going to be like, what? So instead, maybe it's better to say, I'm going to go here, then I'm going to go here, then I'm going to go here, you know, and work it out little phrase for phrase. It's not going to sound anything like what you started out to learn or play, but if you master that and do it slowly, it's going to start happening and you're going to pick up on it. And all of a sudden you're bicycling the bicycle, you know, you're up and riding the bike.
Okay.
There was a third thing and that was where I was going to shut up.
Two's good.
Two's good. Awesome.
Yeah. Listen, one of the things you brought up about going from scale to scale, from the C to E, going from the C scale, but maybe you want to do the bridge, and all of a sudden that bridge starts in E. If you don't mind, can we do this again?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Not right now, obviously, but I mean later.
Oh, this whole thing. Yeah. Oh God, I'm like so enjoying it. Yes.
Okay, cool. So your 2 bits of advice, and if you think of the third one, please tell me, but your 2 bits of advice are to go slow to go fast, and then trust your ear.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. I like that too, because you and I've had this discussion before, and it's basically, we all intuitively know, music. Even if you go to my 6-year-old, when he was younger, if he's trying to be aggressive or if he's trying to be, annoying, for lack of better words, he knows how to go, which is sound, which is music, but he knows that intuitively how to be grating. And
yes.
My daughter, she knows how to sound super pleasant. I remember one of the sweetest times. I forget. We had a puppy. Her name was Sarah, and my wife Amber, obviously Amber. We had this dog at our apartment, and the dog was just yelping, just being kind of just anxious, and just wasn't real super comfortable. And I remember waking up to Amber singing a super sweet lullaby to this dog to try to get the dog to calm down. And I just sat there and listened. I didn't try to get up and help. I just sat there and listened. And it was beautiful. And what's great about that is she's not a talented singer, meaning she hasn't educated herself on the do's and don'ts and what to do and what not to do. But, if she had the opportunity to calm down a dog with a sweet sounding lullaby, she nailed it. And it's because she intuitively knows this sounds good. So you're right when you say that we understand intuitively
That's cool.
music.
That's awesome. I love that.
Well, and I was, go ahead.
No, that's just a great analogy.
Well, right, and so when you say to me that, trust your ear, it just makes a lot of sense. It just makes a lot of sense, and that's a big takeaway. I got a question for you. How long have you been playing music?
My whole life. On and off, but my whole life.
So 30 years.
God bless you. Yes, 30 years.
Yeah. So, okay, but that's a long time to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Right.
Why do you still do it?
Oh, God, what a great question.
My answer is because sometimes I don't have the words. But I know how I feel, and that guitar is my braille.
Wow, I love that. It's so powerful.
Yeah.
What a very powerful way to express yourself. in a whole other way. Sometimes it's just less work hearing expression or giving expression through music,
Sure.
right? Sometimes you're just like, oh God.
But why do you still play?
Because I love it.
Yeah.
It never goes away.
Yeah.
It never goes away. And meaning that it doesn't ever lose importance to me. To when I hear something or when I feel something, and it's just infinite. I mean, I love every element of music. Every time I delve into it, there's so much more to give, and the music to give, and that can go like, so when I started teaching, I really was heartbroken because my dad passed in 2002. And I was like, wow, he was like one of the last of the Mohicans kind of thing, you know? And then my mom, you know, she can't play anymore. She's too old to do really that. Actually, she can. She has Alzheimer's and she can still play.
Wow.
And so she plays where she lives it's a memory care place. But I thought, oh my God, classical music, it's, you know, oh, it's dying and this, that, and the other, right? You know, and I'm like, well, what about John Williams? What about gamer music? Zelda, you know, Legend of Zelda. What about, you know, there's like all this, it never stops. And in a good way, right? So I just really have a love and a passion for it. And it's amazing to me how it touches people the same way, no matter where they're from, you know. And then it's just, I really love science-y stuff. I love going to natural history museums and stuff. I don't know why, but I'll tell you, this is the primary thing. It makes me remember where we come from. No matter what's going on in the world, it's a completely pure natural source. And everybody's going to do something different with it. Just like the person and the soul that they are, their music's going to do the same thing. Whatever comes, like Amber's Lullaby.
Yeah.
You know, and I love the real deal. I love the real deal. I need it because when crazy stuff is happening, it never went away and it's not going to go away. And that holds a lot for me. Really does.
I like that. Have you ever heard that Alan Watt quote? I put it on my Facebook. Let me see if I can find it.
Helen Watt.
Okay, so you know the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see how good my internet is. It's you know, I hope not to get too deep into it, you know, but I'll say it this way: my dad was a police officer in Huntington Beach for, you know, that was his career. He worked for AT&T, and my mom was not a stay-at-home mom. My mom took care of two boys, me and my older brother, and eventually a third son when she remarried. But she went to work full time and took care of three boys.
Oof.
But right, I know. So I'm fairly sure that, yeah, most men can lift heavier things, but when it comes to toughness, you women take the cake every time.
God bless.
It's true, though. It's true. You tell me to give birth to a freaking baby, I'm out. I'm out. but I tell you, growing up, you know, my brother did everything first, and really amazing. He kind of set the bar, you know, and I was loved. Obviously, as a child, I was very much loved, but I never knew how to speak to these people who I put on pedestals, you know. But man, you put a guitar in my hands, I know Spanish. I'm just saying, I know how to, you know.
Totally get that.
Yeah. But okay, so the quote: when somebody plays music, you listen. You just follow those sounds, and eventually you understand the music. The point can't be explained in words, but music is not words. But after listening for a while, you understand the point of it, and that point is the music itself. In exactly the same way, you can listen to all experiences.
Wow.
I love that.
That is giant.
Yeah, and he's right. I'd say he's right.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
It
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
transcends. It
So,
transcends.
yeah. And tell me if you can relate to this. Part of the joy I get out of teaching other people how to play music is I kind of take it on as a challenge, right? You get some demonstrative guy in front of me who just retired from the police department, whatever it may be, and he's an old dog stuck in his tricks who says, "Well, I'm here to look to play guitar, but I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be able to play guitar." Challenge accepted. Right? I bet you I can. And one of the biggest payoffs, is seeing that person going from "I'm not going to understand this, put it in the firewood," to them playing like, "Oh my God, I just did Gloria." You know, it's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Is that the same for you, or do you tell me? Is that your experience?
It's God, that's powerful. Really, really powerful. I think what it is for me is the bringing everything down to a grounded, peaceful basis. Just like I was saying, it's so organic.
Yeah.
Total hippie sound, but I don't mean, it doesn't matter. It's just that whether it's a little kid who's like, "Wah!" And for some reason I would continually get kids that were like that, and maybe they didn't work out with another teacher or two or something, and I had to really go off the grid and just be like, okay, well, let's learn the scales through playing hopscotch then. We would do it with our feet, and then we would do it with the finger. I mean, like, I didn't, and it was, I was praying, but I hope the parent will have me back. But the crazy thing was the music came through, and and it comes through, and by the time we're done, they're juiced. I mean, they're just like, wow, but they want to go home and learn it. They felt something, and it was worth the hard work they had to do to sit still and get the wiggles out, and with people that are coming around to it now that they've retired or they have the time, they love what they get out of the mental challenge. This hand's going to do this and this one's going to do this.
Yeah.
And it's so technical, but in the long run, they're making music. And after 10 minutes of working through something, and I'm like, oh my God, they're going to like run out of here, pulling their hair out, screaming. We're making music. Like the music never got lost,
Right.
So I feel like it's a really safe, sacred space. That's what I get out of it.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Mary Wilson, let's wrap this up. How do people find you?
Oh, okay. So I'm on Instagram at Soundgirl Life with one L. And I am on Facebook, just Mary Wilson. I have languageofpiano.com. That's my website. And my email is languageofpiano@gmail.com.